uh, fill in the feedback forms just to help us improve these workshops. We do quite a lot of them, and also to connect with me on LinkedIn. So by way of introduction, just to first of all to let you know, I'm recording this meeting in Teams, so just so you're aware of that. And as I said, my LinkedIn profile is there in the chat, and also the online feedback form. So that's really the only ask I have before we get into the presentation. I'm going to just share my screen now. Just bear with me and let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, looks good, John. It's there now.
Great. Okay, and Matt, you might just keep an eye on the people in the lobby and just admit them.
No problem.
That would be great. So I'll just turn on my camera just to introduce myself. So John Roddy is my name. I'm the commercial director here in Codec. I look after all the sales and marketing, and the group P&L comes under my ownership within Codec. So I was asked today to come along and just do a very brief, you'd be happy to hear, Codec introduction. That would be my role today. I'll also facilitate any questions that you have via the chat. Make sure Matt sees them as he's going through. Matt, do you wanna say hello?
Yeah, thanks, John. Hey, everybody. My name is Matt Comerford, and I'm the collaboration and content practice lead for Codec. So I run the team that specializes in Office 365, Microsoft Teams, and Power Platform in Codec. So lots of different things in the mix there, and my slides will explain that in a little bit more detail and go through what we're gonna look at today. So that's me. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, so guys, I'll kick off as people join. You know, we'll admit them into the lobby. Again, just the notes in the chat around the LinkedIn and also the feedback forms would be really valuable to us. Really appreciate that. So by way of introduction, yeah, I'll do a couple of slides on Codec in terms of who we are, what we do, and then I'm going to hand over to Matt, who's going to talk about the App in a Day introduction and also the App in a Day webinar that we're covering off today. It's actually App in about 60 odd minutes. So I think Matt's prepared some really good content and real good takeaway stuff for you guys to really, you know, bring with you into your organizations. We'll have a quick Q&A and then a close. So hopefully that agenda meets with your expectations. I'll start to talk a little bit now about Codec. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to fly through these slides. Essentially, this was a survey done last year by Gartner, prior to obviously COVID-19, which essentially talked about the third era of IT. And I suppose the main message on this is that, and even more so now with the times that we're all living in, is that digital initiatives and growth and business growth are top priorities for CIOs, and that has become mainstream within organizations globally. This was a survey done of over 3,000 CIOs. So that's the main message. Obviously, other very important messages on the slide deck. But the main one is that enterprises are now entering the third era of IT, and digital is becoming mainstream. And for organizations who want to go digital, who need a dependable service partner, who are looking to consolidate vendors, looking for management skills expected of the big 4, 6, 8, 10, and who also want delivery of innovation with user adoption as well. We think that Codec are that service provider. So let me talk a little bit about who we are. So we were founded in Dublin in 1985. So we've been around a long time. We've offices obviously head office in Dublin. Our office in NI services NI and UK. Based in Belfast. We've also offices in Galway, Cork, London, Cologne, and Poland. Revenues last year were in excess of 30 million. Our headcount is over 240, and we're an award-winning Microsoft practice, as well as an Oracle practice, but an award-winning Microsoft practice is, I suppose, Microsoft represents 85 to 90% of what we do as an organization. And I'll talk a little bit about that as well. So over those 35 years, we've amassed lots of industry know-how across various different sectors, from data centers to retail, manufacturing, food and beverage, commercial, public sector, aviation, telecoms, utilities, and financial services. And on the left of this slide, as you look at it, you'll see some of our long-standing customers that we've worked with and continue to work with over the years. Some very recognizable names there across various different industry sectors. Matt, I see there's people joining. You're admitting as we go, are you?
Yep, I'm admitting people as they come along.
Great. Thanks, Matt. So one slide I think is really important for those of you on the call who don't know who Codec are. I always think it's kind of good to give you a slide that kind of represents who we are as an organization and what culture means to us. So this was a survey we did of the organization's 240 people, and we're predominantly a technology company, and most of those people surveyed would be technology people. And basically, these were the three key themes that came out of that survey. So the first one, we want to challenge each other, we want to grow, but we also want to enjoy what we do within Codec. And that means working on the coolest, most exciting projects across innovative technologies from Microsoft. And because we know more about the full Microsoft suite of products, we can do more for our customers. So that's just a quick slide on who we are, what our culture is. Our culture is all about people, challenge, grow and enjoy, exciting projects, and know more, do more for our customers. Quick slide on our accreditations. We have all the main ISO accreditations: 9001, 27001, and 20000. We're Microsoft Gold Partner. We've been Country Partner of the Year for 3 of the last 5 years. That's the island of Ireland, North and South. We've been the Data Center Dynamics Partner of the Year, and we've also been the Microsoft Dynamics Partner of the Year for 7 of the last 8 years and the last 6 years in a row. And we've multiple competencies, as you'll see there, across the board. We also, security is really important to us. We have a Cyber Essentials Plus. And those ISO certifications, there's work that needs to be done to maintain them every year, to make sure that you're adhering to the certifications and the standards. So our awards and our accreditations are something that we're really proud of. We have a very tight, good relationship with Microsoft. So just a quick one on that. So when organizations are looking to consolidate vendors across multiple disciplines, from development to Powerups that we're going to talk about today, and AI, to business intelligence, enterprise performance management, modern workplace, managed services, cloud migrations, hardware procurement, and licensing. When you have too many vendors in an organization, it kind of creates many problems, represented by the diagram of the car. So, if you have to go to a different supplier for tires than you do to get an oil change in your car, to change various different component parts of the car, too many vendors creates problems for organizations in that it's not integrated. There can be many versions of the truth. There's a management overhead and there's many points of failure. It's inefficient and slow, and most times it can be very expensive. Consolidating those vendors with an organization like Codec, it gives you a single version. It blends your solutions and gives clear problem ownership. It's much more economical and it's more fast and agile. What we're basically saying there is, from a managed services and an implementation point of view, there's less cracks for things to fall through when you deal with a full suite organization like Codec, and there's many efficiencies that can be brought to the table by consolidating to one vendor. This is what we do in the Microsoft suite. We're Dynamics 365 Customer Engagement, which was previously known as CRM. We're FinSol, so we're big on Microsoft ERP and Navision Business Central. and AX now to finance and operations, which is now called operations. Cloud and productivity is very important to us. Obviously, managed services, the Power Platform, which Matt is going to be talking about today, and business analysis and quality assurance and PMO are the other component parts to what we do as an organization. When I talk about the management skills expected of a Big Four, accelerated value realization delivery model is a delivery model that we developed for Crossrail 2 in the UK, which is one of the largest infrastructure projects done in Europe. It was over 45 billion. Ongoing project, but this is our own methodology that creates certainty, helps with acceleration, with engagement and value realization quicker. It's what we use on most of our large projects. Our PMO team have many and varied skills, from quality management to assumption management to budget management, as you'd expect, right through to dependency and action management. We have a very strong PMO team, and on the right of this slide, you'll see the disciplines in terms of our project management team, in terms of what we do. Security is embedded in everything we do at Codec across all of our businesses, from identity and access management, information protection, threat protection, endpoint manager, and cloud access security broker. It's a really important part. You can't talk about digital transformation, you can't talk about cloud without having a really strong security backbone. So it's a really important thing for us in Codec. Business analysis team in Codec, when we talk about digital transformation, your BAs in the modern world have to have capabilities and wear lots of different hats across various disciplines. And our BA team are researchers, they're interviewers, they're writers, they're data analysts, but they're also functional analysts, relationship managers, change champions, and UX and UI specialists as well. So they wear many hats across that large team within Codec, but really important part of what we do. Quality assurance, from management testing to automated testing to performance testing and to reporting, is a really big part of also what we do in Codec. Want to talk, coming towards the end of my slides, but delivery through innovation and adoption. And in Codec, that means a startup company that we founded in the organization probably about 2 years ago now. And Codec Labs was developed within Codec to kind of fill those gaps within the Microsoft technology stack. So one example of that is the GDPR solution that we built for Dynamics 365, which is available now in the Microsoft catalog for customers too. Covers everything from consent tracking to anonymization of data, data breaches, data management, configurable models, and GDPR reporting. There's an awful lot more to it than that, but that's just it in summary as an example. But we've developed almost 20 products now across Codec Labs on the Microsoft stack, some more technical than others, but data protection I've mentioned. Purus is a solution for the water industry, built on Dynamics as well. So they're just an example of some of the accelerators that we've developed within Codec Labs to help, I suppose, one, fill the gaps in the Microsoft stack, but also to help with user adoption, which is really, really important. And when you're dealing with Codec, it's a really innovative part of our business that really gets close to what you guys are trying to achieve and accelerates project delivery as well. So a really important part of our company. So in summary, and I've kind of flown through that, but I only had about 5 to 8 minutes. But for organizations looking to go digital, who need a dependable IT service partner, who are looking to consolidate vendors and all the economies of scale that they bring, but also looking for the management skills expected of a Big Four and delivery of innovation to assist with user adoption, Codec, we would like to think, is the partner of choice for you guys. So with that, I'm going to hand over to you, Matt. I'm going up sharing and hand over to yourself. For those people, by the way, who've just joined before Matt gets into it, if you just look at the chat section within the presentation, please, you'll see where myself and Matt have given our LinkedIn profiles there. Encourage you to to link in with us. Matt shares quite a lot of content on LinkedIn around what we're going to show today, as do I. But also, and very importantly, is the feedback forms. So for those who missed the very start, it'd be really important that we get those feedback forms signed to help us improve. It will take literally 2 minutes. It's an online form. Matt, over to yourself.
Cool. Thanks very much, John. All right, everybody. So I've got a few slides to go through. I promise I won't take long. It's really just to set the background on what the Power Platform is and kind of just set the scene a little bit for what we're going to do today. So obviously we've changed the structure of the event a little bit in light of circumstances at the moment. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, and I think everyone can see that now. Okay. So to remind everyone, my name is Matt Comerford. I'm the practice lead for the collaboration and content practice in Codec. So usually we'll create solutions for Office 365, help people adopt it. And there's a whole range of different things that we do with our customers at the moment. Especially, we've been focused on migrating people to Microsoft Teams and getting their content off their network shares. And we do a lot of work in Powerups and Power Automate, and we have a number of customers around the country that we do that with. A couple of long-term partnerships as well. So we've changed a little bit. So normally what we do is we do what's called an app in a day, where we would get everybody like yourselves together into a room in Microsoft or in Codec, and we have all these modules that everybody can go through. So we'd spend the whole day together. You guys would be very hands-on doing each module with my assistance, and we'd work through the whole thing together in the room. So I've taken a sample of that today, and I've changed it a little bit to an app in an hour. So we're going to do the first module. I'm going to show you the PDF content that we have when we do the app in a days, and we're going to follow along on it. And I'm going to make the app then in real time, and based on that content, so you can get an idea of what that event is like. What we're hoping to do is once things settle back to normal a bit, then we're hoping that we'll have an app in a day and be able to invite everybody along and do the full event. So I'll start with an introduction to the Power Platform. So you might have heard of it. A lot of the time people have heard of Power Apps and Flow or Power Automate or Power BI, but those three things together are basically the Power Platform. So if you've heard Power Platform and you're not sure what it actually is, that's what it is. It's those three apps combined together. So the idea is that you've got your workloads across modern workplace, biz apps, application infrastructure, and you've got data and AI. And the goals then of the Power Platform are to empower employees, engage customers, optimize operations, and transform products. So the idea is that you can shift from being reactive to those situations to being proactive, to having solutions for those situations. So the platform itself is basically, it's a low-code platform. It covers Microsoft's main clouds, which is Office 365, Dynamics 365, and Azure. So those three apps, as I said, Power BI, Power Apps, and Flow, are what make up the Power Platform. Power BI handles the analysis piece, so that's all your reporting. Power Apps handles Act, which is your apps that people will actually interact with. And then Flow handles all the automation. So for Power BI, look at that in a little bit more detail. I'm sorry if I could just ask everyone to mute their microphones for the moment, please. I'm just hearing some background noise. Thanks. So for Power BI, you can experience your data with Power BI. So basically, it helps you make sense of your data with ease. It basically it enables you to make really nice reports, really interactive reports, really, really quickly. Okay. So these are some of the key features of Power BI. And this is something you'll see across all the Power Platforms. So WYSIWYG, or what you see is what you get, design experience here. This is common across Power BI, Power Apps, and Power Automate. And the real strength of Power BI then is in displaying your data and creating visualizations. So it makes it really, really easy to create visualizations from your data. And it connects to everything that you could have in Office 365, links into all the individual apps in Office 365 really, really easily. It's all kind of plug and play stuff, and you can extend it as well. So if you've got some developers or something like that in your organization, you can actually design your own visualizations and plug them into it as well. So Powerups, which is the focus of today, basically the idea behind Powerups is let you build apps for web and mobile. So you can easily build web and mobile apps. It's all low to no code. The idea is that you can empower business users to solve their own problems. So this term of citizen developers is something you might have heard from Microsoft. So the idea is that you give people in the organization these tools. You enable them to be able to make desktop apps and mobile apps, and they can go off and they can create those apps themselves, and they can share them very easily with the wider organization. And of course, all of those applications, they live within your Office 365 and all the data that's in there as well. So that kind of wraps around it. And for the mobile end of things, you're not worried about iOS or Android. You just publish an app, and there's a downloadable app from the stores on iOS and Android that your users can install. So it kind of takes any of the complexity out of making mobile apps. Then you just have to worry about Powerups and publishing the apps. And again, the same, very, very, very similar to Power BI. There's an extensibility model in there. You can do pretty complicated app logic. There's a data platform built in called the Common Data Service, which is very powerful. So you might not have like a data warehouse or on-premises SQL or much of your data even in Office 365, but you can use the Common Data Service, which kind of gives you a lot of that stuff. And the WYSIWYG design experience, which you'll see in a lot of detail today. And the cool part as well is sharing apps like documents. So you can literally share in 3 clicks. All the access is granted for somebody then once you share the app with them. So it's really, really easy to use it. And then the last component of the Power Platform is Flow. So Flow handles all the workflow and automation in Office 365. So it's like, if you imagine all the different apps in Office 365 are like bricks, Flow is like the cement between all the bricks. So you can join all these things together and you can get to really, really interesting scenarios. You can handle a lot of stuff with Flow. The idea is you can model business processes. So this kind of surface you see here in this image, it's kind of like doing a Visio diagram, except you're joining all the different apps in Office 365 together. So it's really, really easy to use. It can be really simple, or it can have really advanced scenarios. And then of course there's trigger actions. You can grant approvals, get notifications where you work. You can send push notifications to people's devices. There's a whole range of stuff you can do in there. And again, very, very common to the other elements of the Power Platform. You've got that connectivity with Office 365. You've got the what you see is what you get design experience. At the moment, I'm not sure if this is still the number. It could be even higher at this point, but there's 250 services that you can connect to. And they're not just Microsoft services, which is really good. You can plug in Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI into more than just Microsoft stuff. So you might have like Zendesk and you want to do some automation using Zendesk, and you're free to do that. And they can be simple, they can be really complicated. So the idea then, the total is greater than the sum of the parts. So you've got Power Apps, Power BI, and Flow. That's the Power Platform. It wraps around the CDS, which is the Common Data Service. So you can have all your data living in there. So these are some of the kind of key things you can do with all the different elements of the Power Platform. And you really get the most out of it when you start to combine all these different things together. So it allows you to innovate faster with a low-code platform. So you can reduce time and cost. You can extend your system of record. You can reduce errors by automating manual processes. And then you might have this situation where you've got like multiple line of business applications, maybe multiple legacy applications or something like that. Maybe you want to wrap a single app around all those processes or those apps to make it a bit simpler for everybody to use. So that's something else you can do, which is pretty cool. We've done it before ourselves. We modernized a couple of older apps using it. And this really provides a unique approach to building business apps. So it makes it easy to build full-featured apps because of the low to no-code platform. Very easy to connect your data. You can enrich and extend your data then with the Common Data Service, AI Builder, and Portals, which are all kind of recent additions. Connects to Dynamics 365, Azure, Power BI, Flow, Office 365, and it's got a strong enterprise governance and security, and it's got pro developer extensibility with application lifecycle management too. So the idea is that you can have really, really simple apps, or you can start to get really, really sophisticated. And it could be a situation where you've got developers who, there's a big application, part of it is custom developed, maybe a couple of parts of that are a Power Platform solution as well. So you can kind of mash it all together. So introduction to Canvas apps. So Canvas apps help business users create and use custom business apps across platforms using Excel and PowerPoint skills. So you're going to see that today. What we'll do is very, very similar. It's like somewhere between making a PowerPoint presentation and doing stuff in Excel. It's really, really similar. So we're going to connect to some data. We're going to create a really small app, and you can use apps on any device. So we're going to be focusing on a desktop/tablet app today. So Canvas apps is where we're going to start. In a full app in a day experience, we would do Canvas apps, model-driven apps, Flow, Power BI. We go into a lot of details. So given that we've had to change things a little bit, we're going to make the most of it, and we're going to use we're going to create a Canvas app today. We're going to follow along through the lab material so you get a sense of how it actually works with a full app in a day as well. So this is the business scenario. We have an organization where every 3 years employees go through a hardware refresh cycle. They want to streamline the device order, procurement, and approval process, and the app needs to run on a web browser and on mobile devices as well. Okay, so that's the full kind of end-to-end solution that you do in an app in a day. What we're going to work on now is we're going to create this device ordering app in real time. It's relatively simple, looks good, and it'll give you a good sense of the features that you have in there. Okay, and again, this is what the full app in a day looks like. And I'll go through a little bit of the PDF material that we have and what the kind of labs look like and stuff too. And I'll be hoping we get that scheduled sooner rather than later. Okay. So we're going to sign in, create a Canvas app. We're going to connect to some data. We're going to filter it. We're going to work across multiple screens, and we're going to customize the user experience a little bit. Okay, so that's the end of PowerPoint. Everyone's on mute. There might have been a collective sigh of relief there. So when we do an app in a day, we normally have this content, and everybody would work through this with us together. It's a little bit hard to do that remotely because usually I'll be sitting with people and I'll help everyone get up and running, and I'll help people along with it. So I'm going to follow along through the first module. I'm going to share with everybody and just show you what it's like to do it. So we have the first task. Even though this is task 2, task 1 is just around some of the setup stuff before we can get started. So we're going to start with creating a new application. So I'm going to jump across here over to Powerups, which I've already opened in my browser from Office 365. And I've got this option here, Canvas app from blank. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click this. Just for anyone that's kind of played around with a Power Platform or jumped into Power Apps and had a look, you can click on all templates here, and you can see tons of sample apps that Microsoft have. And you can actually take these and you can modify these yourself. And it's always worth throwing an eye in here if you're thinking of making something in Power Apps, because, you know, for example, if you're going to make a cost estimator, you might be able to go in here and find a template that you can start from, and it'll get you a good way there, and you can just kind of modify it and change a little bit to suit your needs. So that's just worth mentioning to everybody. So we're going to go Canvas app from blank. So I'll click this. We'll call it app in a day device order. We're going to create a tablet app. So this is going to do some thinking now. And it's behaved itself. Lovely. Okay. I'll flick back to my PDF now. So we've created our application. It's that simple to get started with it. We don't need to think about any of that stuff. So next, task 3, we're going to rename the screen and add a header. So what you'll see as we go, and the reason for doing this is that when you make Power Apps, you'll see yourselves now shortly, but you tend to get a lot of stuff popping up on the navigation on the left. And what I'd always recommend to everybody is name your controls when you add them, because what happens is your app kind of grows and you've got all these really random names for all the different bits and pieces that are in there. And it can be very hard to find what you actually want to fix or what you want to change. So what we're going to do first is we're going to rename the screen. We're going to call it main screen. So if I jump back across into Power Apps, this is the design surface. You can see it's giving me a screen out of the box. It's called screen 1. Click here, rename. Main screen. easy enough. You'll notice like a lot of the controls you see in here as well are very similar to what you see across all the other Microsoft apps too. So, you know, you've got ellipse here, insert, view, action. We'll be going into all of these soon enough, but it's not, it's fairly simple to get to grips with. So we've renamed the screen. Brilliant. And again, this emphasizes the fact that it's good practice to rename the screens, and it really is. I can't stress that enough, and you'll see it more as we go along. Okay, so we're going to add a header. That header is going to contain the name of the app and the name of the user that's logged in. Okay, so I'm going to add a label to my app. So go insert, I click label. So you can see it's got this drop down here. So this is the properties drop down. Okay, so I've selected this control. These are all the different properties of this control. Okay, this changes a little bit from control to control because different things will have slightly different properties. But in general, this is how it works across the board. So I've got the text property here that says text. You can see in the box, if you can see that, it says text here. We're very zoomed out, but it's a bit easier to lay stuff out when you're zoomed out like this. Okay, so that's going to say whatever that text property is. So I change this to that'll reflect in real time there. Okay, so following along with this, it wants us to first rename the header. Sorry, rename the label to header label. Okay, so again, following that best practice. Easy. Next, we're going to select the text property, and from the drop-down list, which we have done, we're going to change the text value to device ordering app. Okay, so we're going to turn this into the header for the app. Okay, I'll zoom in a bit so you can see. Now what we're going to do is resize it. So we're going to take this label and we're going to kind of turn it into a header for the whole app, so it looks nice on people's screens. So we'll drag it out. We'll make it a decent size for a header to make it stand out a bit. Okay, so that's taking shape now. It says device ordering app. Looks a bit plain. It's not really where we want it to be. So we're going to position the control now. Okay, so to position the text. So got my controls selected. I'm going to go click home. And these text controls, again, are really similar to like what you'd see in other Microsoft applications. So I can just hit center. You can see now that that's put my text in the center. Okay, looks a little bit better now. We're going to add some color. So I'm going to change the fill property on the control now. So here's the fill option. And we'll make that a nice blue here. Okay, cool. Now, getting there, I don't really like that text color. It doesn't stand out enough. So I'm going to change that. We'll make it white. Okay, that's a little bit better. Let's go back to the guide. So we're going to want to increase the font size now as well. Okay, so we can make that header just a little bit more prominent, a little bit more visible to everybody. So I'll click here and I'll say 24. It looks a bit better now. It's stronger. Cool. So the next thing we're going to do then is we're going to say hello to the user that's logged in. Okay, so we're going to take a label. We're going to make that label dynamically display the name of the currently logged in user. And it's funny, like stuff like this is genuinely really, really easy to do. For someone to be using this Power App, they have to be signed in anyway. So you're not going to deal with a situation where someone can see it and they're not signed in. So it's a pretty fail-safe thing to do. So what we're going to do is insert a new label control. I'm going to drag this over here. Just line it up so you can see it gives me little guidelines there to help me position my controls. Really, really similar to PowerPoint. And again, this is defaulted to text. Okay, so we refer back to the guide here. It wants us to change the value of the text field. Okay, so like the PDFs are really, really good quality. Like the lab material is really, really good. It gives you the formulas, and it explains in a lot of detail what you need to be doing as well. And this is the case for every single module. So every module gets its own individual content, and there's completed labs included in the content we use as well. So we're going to change the value of the text field to hello, and then we're going to concatenate the user's full name. Okay, so first I'll say hello. Okay. Then by using ampersand, I can start to join another piece of text to it. So when I type user here, you can see Powerups is actually suggesting functions to me. So I'll just click user. Now that gets the user's record. And then that user record has these key properties in it. So I've got email, full name, or image. So I'll say full name. You can see here, this says, okay. And that's just pulling it straight from my Office 365. Now, we'll do some conditional formatting here. So we'll add some, sorry, not conditional formatting, just formatting to make it a little bit more easy on the eye. So we're going to add some padding. So when I click controls in Powerups, I have my properties over here. I've also got that over here. So it's kind of laid out a little bit more visually. So I could like use this drop down if I want to do text values for the properties. But actually, I've got a lot of controls over here that do it as well. So it's pretty simple. What you're seeing here is basically identical to what's available here in this drop down. Okay. So if I scroll down a little bit, I've got padding right. Let's change that to 20. And then I'm going to right align my text as well. Like so. Okay, so that padding added that little bit of space right here. So that's just explaining the user function in Powerups. I've covered that off and how it retrieves who's currently logged into the app. Okay, so we're going to save the application now. So when you save your apps in Powerups, it all just saves back into your Office 365. Okay. So I can go app in a day, device order. Lovely, but actually I might go settings here first. And from here, I can assign an icon to the app. So it gives me loads of icons and background colors and stuff I can use out of the box. And I can also add my own icons. It gives me little guidelines here. So if you've got loads of apps, you might start to color code them. Maybe different apps will have different icons for different uses and stuff like that too. So just give it this nice filter symbol here. I'll go back to save. You see this defaults to the cloud, save the Powerups, app in a day, device order, lovely, save. Done. Now, at this point, if the app was finished, I could click on share and I could share the app out, but obviously I won't be doing that now. I need to finish it off a little bit first. So we jump back across here. We're making good progress, keeping an eye on the time. So you can select the screen size and orientation tab if you want to view the different options for the aspect ratio. So this normally defaults to 16 to 9, which is a typical kind of display size for tablets. We go to my settings here. Oh, screen size and orientation. So you see I've got some of those options here. So I can change this if I want to, suggest some devices here too. Okay, so that's how I can make it to suit particular devices. Now, when I make a mobile app, it starts off a little bit differently. We started as a tablet, but if it's a mobile app, it'll be shaped for like an iPhone size phone. And things are a bit different. The design surface looks like a mobile, it doesn't look like a tablet. So if I was back out here making a mobile app, it would be a much smaller square we'd be working on from here. So it's cool, like it's very obvious to you as a user what you're actually doing. So yeah, we went through that. So we've saved our app. We're not going to share it just yet. The other thing to mention as well, actually, before I move on, Powerups kind of does its own version control automatically as you go along. What happens as well is the app saves every kind of couple of minutes. So it's handy enough if you should get interrupted and go away and come back and you've lost your session or something like that, there's a good chance it would have auto-saved for it as well. And if you make an app, even if you've released it and you want to roll back to a previous version of it because you found a mistake or something like that in it, you can go back and actually roll back to a previous version. So it looks after all that stuff itself. So and it's really easy to use. No one's writing lines of code. It's all done through the menus. Okay, so the next exercise is we're going to add a device gallery and we're going to connect to a data source. So this is something that when you start using Powerups, you're going to use this a lot. Galleries basically display repeating information. So the best way I could think of describing it is it's like a visualization for an Excel table. So if you think of an Excel table, you've got your headers or your column names, and you've got your rows of data. This is a way to visualize that repeating data, okay? So we're going to go back. We're going to go to insert. Now, some of the stuff along the top here, if you look at it, it looks like stuff is missing sometimes, but it's just to do with your device settings. So if you switch between working on a widescreen monitor and then going to a laptop or something, just if you think something's missing, usually they get buried under these arrows. So I'll go gallery and I'll choose horizontal. So this gives me a gallery control, and it's got some sample data in there already. And it's also kind of took a stab at what kind of fields I might want to have in a gallery. Okay, so it's got like an image, it's got title text, and it's got subtitle here. And on the left, if I drop this down, I can see the individual components. And when we work on a gallery, we'll only ever work on this item here because it's repeating. So we edit this little kind of template item here, and those changes will reflect in every other item that we see in the gallery. So it'll make a bit more sense as we go along. If that's not really clear to you just yet, we'll be kind of looking at that in a bit more detail. So we've added our gallery. It's called Gallery 1. You can see here it's defaulted to Gallery 1. So again, what we're going to want to do is rename that. Now we'll go, and actually I'll rename it in the next steps. What I'll do is add a data source. So this is where we're going to connect it to some static Excel data. So I click on my gallery here, go through the menu. Okay, so this, when I click this drop down, just to show everybody again, data source, none, click here. I can start to look through entities. This is if I'm using a common data service, and I can see connectors as well. So this is all the different services you can connect into Powerups. And again, it's not only Microsoft stuff. You can do loads. There's 250 at last count is a number I see. I'm not sure what that is now. That could be even higher. So we have Excel data. So I'm going to just do a quick search. So we've got import from Excel, add static data to your app. So we'll do that. Here's the stuff I made earlier. And again, when we do these labs, we give all this content. So I've got the device order data, which is what I'm going to use. Click open. So there's two tables in that Excel. There's devices and there's manufacturers. So I'm going to import both of them. And I'm going to hit connect. And what that's actually done is it's looked at my data source and it's kind of made a best guess as to what fields my data source should line up with that gallery. So that table I've connected it with, sorry, the Excel I've connected it with, has loads of data on different laptops, different devices, and as well as that, it has the data on their manufacturers across those tables, okay? So it's actually done a pretty good job at automatically populating that for us. So we've done this. We've connected our data source, okay? Now we're going to change the source itself. So it's actually defaulted to devices, okay? There's manufacturers, so that's the other table. We actually want this to be devices as well, so that's fine for us. Lovely. That's going to show us our devices. Now the next thing is we're going to rename the gallery to device gallery. Again, following that best practice. Otherwise, you can see how many controls we have here now. We're only getting started. They just get these kind of default names, so it's a good idea to rename them. Within a gallery, you don't have to worry too much about renaming these controls because what they are is usually inferred by the name of the gallery itself. So yeah, we'll be fine. We just renamed the gallery for this one. So we'll call it device gallery. Okay. So yeah, this just kind of delves into a little bit of detail on what I was saying about, hey, you only really edit the first item in the gallery. So if you see here, I can click on this and I can click things here, or I can click things on the design surface itself. I'd normally recommend going from here with galleries because it's just a little bit easier and they prevent you making mistakes. But what you'll notice is when I click the gallery, I've got this little pencil icon here. And I can click on this, and that just gives my gallery item context. Okay? And again, whatever I change here is going to change for every other item in the gallery. Otherwise, it would just be all over the place. And you can have like lists of thousands of items rendering in that gallery. So we're going to arrange the device gallery. And what it means here is basically just resize and reposition the gallery to suit what we want to do in the app. And that's as easy as just, it's really, really similar to what you see in other apps. You know, you can just drag it around. I can use this, resize it, or I can just use these ones. Okay, so what we're gonna be adding a menu on the left. So I'm gonna kind of leave a little bit of room for that. So this is enough. We can always just come back and change the size, but later on if we want it as well. So we're going to resize some of the individual stuff in the gallery now as well. So again, I'll click my pencil icon here. That's given my gallery item context. That's like my template. And what it wants us to do now is use the drag control to resize the first box to be narrower. So we can just do this. Okay, you can see that's made it a little bit more narrow there. That's the image. And we can do this. So you can see all the other ones change as well, all the other items in that gallery. So it's probably about wide enough there for the moment. We resize the image, so it all works the same. Basically, you can just redrag, you can drag and reshape, resize things. Okay, so we're going to add a gallery now to show the manufacturers. Okay, so we've got a gallery of devices. Now we want a gallery of manufacturers, and you'll see why soon enough. So again, we'll go through these steps of adding a gallery. Got my insert selected along the top here. I'll choose gallery. This time I'm going to choose a vertical gallery. This one's orientated a little bit differently. Works exactly the same way. I've got my data sources. This one I will rename to be manufacturer gallery as well before I forget. So I'm going to connect this to my data now. Okay, so again, looking at the other one, actually, you know what, I'll resize it first. That's kind of getting on my nerves looking at it. I might just take this
Matt,
a little narrower. Yeah.
Matt, just a quick one. One of the guys has asked a question, perhaps I missed this, where the images in the Excel doc, that's how it's assigned them along with the labels.
Yes, exactly. So you can have images pulled from URLs, or you can have images that are like base 64 strings. So all the images came from the data source in Excel as well. So yeah, everything that we have that's going to come into here is being pulled in from the Excel basically. So yeah, hopefully that answers that. So we reposition our controls. We've got our manufacturer gallery here. The next step we want to do then is we want to connect the data to it. We're going to change the layout a little bit. So I'll follow along the PDF guide first so we can kind of go along with it together. So I'm going to select the manufacturer gallery and I'm going to select layout or data on the right. So I've got my manufacturer gallery selected. I go over here, got layout. And we want image and title, if I remember right. Image title and subtitle. Yeah, that's what we want there. Okay. Next, we want to go to the data pane. We've got the layout drop down. Yes. And we want to change that to 2 columns. So I can actually do that from this one as well. If I scroll down a bit here, got 2 columns. This. Okay, that just changes the default layout that you see in the gallery. So you've got a lot of them are kind of pre-configured. So sometimes you might want to see like an image title and subtitle, or maybe just title, subtitle, and body. And this one, we're going to have 2 columns like this. Okay. Again, just following along with what the guide says. It'll take shape as we move along. So we're going to close the data pane, and in the properties in the right, we're going to change the wrap count from 2 to 1. So you can see this has 2 things next to each other. So we want to change this to 1. So if I scroll down here in my properties, I've got wrap count. Also, again, remember what you see over here is the same as the properties over here. It's just a slightly different layout. Wrap count should be down here as well. Yeah. see it's 2. There's the text value, same as here. So I'm going to change this to 1. So you can see our gallery is now changed to show a single image. There's no images side by side in it anymore. We're going to reduce the height of the image control now. So within the gallery, I'll select it and then I'll reduce the height. This. Next thing we're going to do then is we reduce the image size. And again, you'll see as I do this, all the other images in the gallery change as well. So that's nice and consistent for a user. They're not all different sizes because it would just be chaotic otherwise. So we're going to reduce the height of the template cell. So this is the image within the gallery itself. When I click outside it, this is the template cell for the gallery. I just resize this now. You can see it's getting closer and closer to the edge of the image there. Okay, perfect. We'll leave it like that for the moment. So we've resized our controls. We've done a little bit of the formatting. Now we want to change the data that we see in the gallery. So the next task we have is connecting the manufacturer gallery to the manufacturer's table. So you remember we imported the manufacturer's table from Excel. And again, just to make it clear, the images that are coming in are again being sourced from that Excel file. So I can't remember off the top of my head if it's in there as URLs or base64 images. But yeah, that's how it works. It's cool because like if you're pulling data in from, maybe you have image data in SQL or something like that, it'll render that too. So it plays really well with base64 images. And you can upload your own images into the app. So if you're making a Power App and you wanted to have like the same icons for throughout the app or even your own custom icons, you can upload them and you can use them throughout the app as well. So it's got really good flexibility for that. So we have the manufacturer gallery selected. What we're going to do is choose the items property. You can see that says custom gallery samples. That's just a default kind of thing. It gives you to have something in the gallery when you throw it onto the screen. So whatever we put in items is where it's going to get its data from. So to show you that, if I click on this gallery, you can see the items as devices. That's the table we connected that gallery to. This one, we're going to choose manufacturers. And again, this IntelliSense is suggesting what it could be based on what's in the app. So manufacturers are data source. And you get all the pictures of the buildings of all the different manufacturers, which is probably not ideal for identifying a manufacturer, but we'll fix that now soon enough. So we're going to select the image control in the gallery, and we're going to change what that shows now. So right now we have it set to buildings, not the most helpful, looks good, but not the most helpful. So we're going to change that now to show their logos. Okay, and this is a good example of how galleries work, and you'll see why they're so useful now in a moment as well. We're going to change the image, which is the control in the gallery, to show the logo from our source data instead. Okay, so if I go here, you can see my image says this item.hq. So again, when we edit galleries, we edit the first item in the gallery. Okay, you'll see every time it's picking this first one here, and that then goes down throughout the rest of the items in the gallery. So whatever I do there is applied to them all, so not editing things individually. Now, you'll see this item only when you're working in galleries, or mostly when you're working in galleries. So because this is connected to a data source, we're saying every item in this gallery should be this item dot. So in this case, it says HQ. If I go this item dot, I can browse. These are the fields from the data source. Okay. Whatever data source I bring in, this is how it works in Power Apps too. So it's from Excel now, could be from SQL, for example. And I'll say logo, hit tab, boom. So now that's a little bit better. That's pulling in the manufacturer's logos from the data source. Okay. Now it says this item.logo, said this item.hq. So we want to select the first one. And we're going to change the image position property to fit. Okay, so it doesn't look ideal for us now. You can see over here, we've got the image position is set to fill. So I'm going to go fit. That's a little bit better. And what that'll do now is, become a bit clearer now in a sec. When I have it set to fit, I can reduce the height of the template cell. And we basically want all 9 manufacturers to fit without seeing a scroll bar in the app. So again, to do that, I'm going to use the drag handles. I'm using a touchpad on my mouse, so this could get a little bit hairy. Let's see. or touchpad, not my mouse, I should say. We've got more we want to get in. There we go. Nice. Okay. So we've reduced the height. We've now got all 9 of the manufacturers showing up without a scroll bar. Okay, it looks good. Bear in mind we're zoomed out, so we'll preview the app soon and have a look at it in the screen and see what it's going to look like for people. So we're going to add some UI features to the app now. So what we want to do is highlight the selected item in the gallery. So in this task, we're going to use a template fill property, which basically dictates what the color of the template is. So you can see in the image there, HP is selected, and there's a nice kind of blue background applied to it. So this is basically letting people know what they've selected from the gallery. Okay, so it gives us this formula. It says if this item is selected, color fade white. So I'm going to type that. I don't want to just copy and paste it in because you won't really get the understanding of what the formula is actually doing if I do that. So I'm going to do it. I'm going to type it in manually. So in my gallery, I'm going to click here. I'm going to select my template fill. You can see now that's just white, RGBA 0000. So I'm going to add a condition. I'm going to say if. Okay, so this is just a function in Powerups. It's really like Excel. Logical test. So the logical test is what this if statement is going to look at and test. So I'm going to say this item dot is selected. And I get this because I have this data in the gallery. This isn't actually in my data source. Whenever I use a gallery and connect it to something, I get this is selected field that I can use. So I'm saying if this item is selected, that will evaluate the true or false. So if I click on something, then yeah, it is selected and it'll be true. Next, we're going to use color fade. So in the formula, this is saying basically whatever I put in here is what it'll do if it's true. Okay, so I'm going to say if it is actually selected, use color fade. And the other interesting part is got header label.fill. Now here, I could put whatever color I wanted. I'm going to say header label.fill. What this is doing is this is going to match it up to the color of my header label. Okay, if it's not selected, so if it's true to that, it's false. Actually, sorry, let's put my 5%. There we go. So I have to say what percentage of the color, the opacity of the color, the else value then. So if it's not actually selected, then I want it to be white. Okay, and I can just type the colors and Powerups will suggest it to me. Nice. So why use header label.fill? Well, imagine I had typed orange or blue in there, and then I went back into my app and I wanted to change the color of my header to pink. So then I'd have a pink header and I'd have this orange fill for something that's selected. So what I can do instead is I can refer controls to each other's properties so that when I change one of the controls, the other ones that are using the same colors will change too. So it just helps me update things and be kind of efficient. Like if I go to the fill property here on this one now, I'll change this and keep an eye on here. You can see it'll change and it'll stay kind of themed, right? So if I ever do decide, you know what, I don't like the colors in general I'm using in this app, I can link them all together like that. And it makes it really, really easy to update it and keep a level of consistency throughout the app. Okay, so it's just another thing that's worth doing. And you can just, IntelliSense will select the different controls to me, and I just have to go to control name dot whatever property I want to use. So that's what that formula does, conditionally sets the fill color. Again, it's just explaining we could have set a specific color if we wanted to. We don't need to do that, that's fine. So we're going to click different manufacturers in the gallery, and we're going to notice how the item is highlighted in a light color. Okay, so if I go to the top right of the app and I click preview, this is playing it in my browser session. And as I click through these now, I can see that that highlight is changing. Okay, nice. We'll add some more functionality to it now in a second. So we want to filter devices based on the selected manufacturer. So what we're trying to get to here is when I click on one of these manufacturers, it will only show me their devices in the device gallery. Okay, and this is really kind of like of all the Powerups and stuff that we've done, whenever I do this, I'm always using galleries. I'm always using filters because we're nearly always connected to some kind of data source, right? So this is really, really kind of useful stuff to be doing and to get comfortable with. So we're going to select device gallery. We're going to change the items property, and we're going to enter an expression. And it's going to be a filter expression. Okay, so I go to my device gallery. Just to remind everyone, that's this one here. Got items. You can see that says devices. Okay, so we're going to change that to this filter now. So we're going to say, actually, I'll just add it in. Filter. Source is devices. So that's my data source I want to filter. And just like that if statement, we have a logical test. We're basically saying, okay, filter items where this value equals this value. Okay, so what we're going to use is the manufacturer ID field, which is suggesting to me based on the fields in my data source as well. So that's where these values are coming from. So say manufacturer ID field, where it's equal to the manufacturer gallery dot selected manufacturer ID. So what that's saying is if we look at the manufacturer gallery, we're saying take the selected item from there and refer to the manufacturer ID. Whoops. Okay. Close off my bracket. What you'll see now is this gallery, this devices gallery, will only show devices from the manufacturer that I've selected over here on the left. Okay. And again, to explain, take this data source where the manufacturer ID is equal to the manufacturer ID and what I've selected over here. Show me those items. Okay, so now we can filter it. Take a quick look just to show everybody. So you can see all those devices are filtering out now. Nice, and I can just scroll along here and take a look at them all. So just go back to our material here. Okay. So we have our gallery updating. You can see that the manufacturer name was changing, so that's fine. So we know that that's working. So next thing we want to do is we want to configure text labels in the device gallery. So we're going to select the top label in the first item. It's title 1 now. And we're going to change it to this item.title. Okay. So if I take my manufacturer gallery, my device gallery, title 1, that's this item.device name. We're going to change that to this item.title. Just take this back. I start typing, it'll suggest it to me. Again, these are coming from my data source. Better. So that's the title of the device itself. Okay, so it's a little bit more useful for everyone that's going to be using this. So we've done that. Next thing we're going to do is, if we want to, we might actually skip over this so that we have time for any questions at the end. But basically, this is suggesting some cosmetic changes we can make if we want to. And we can expand the width of the label to template width. No, this is actually kind of useful. If I take this and expand it, you'll see what's happening. Is this field down here is expanding as well. Sorry, this one here. That matches the width of this. And again, we're just using that idea of linking controls together to keep them consistent, like we did with color. I can do the same thing with width, with height, all that kind of stuff. So I can link the properties of different controls together, so that when I change one, the other one will change as well. So I'm going to change the padding left from 0 to 10. We'll change the font, which I can just do up here. Okay, nice. So what we'll do now is select the text field and change it from this item.manufacturer name to this item.price. Okay. So subtitle 1, I believe, is what we want to change. Yep. Section device type. Okay. Item.price. Cool. So now we can see that this is showing the price. And again, this is all coming from my data source. It's all being suggested to me based on what's in Excel, in my Excel data source. So we've changed that to this item.price. What we're going to do now is we're going to add some formatting, because if you think about it, when someone looks at this, it's not really clear. If there's no .99 on it, it's not really clear what the price actually is. So let's format that a little bit and make it look a little bit better. So it's suggesting that we use this text formula up here. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to put a text in front of this. So the value I want to use is this item.price. The format then I want to use, and I could just put a string in here. And if I can get my euro sign, I can say number. I think that's all it wants us to do. .00. Lovely. This says ENUS. Don't worry about it. It doesn't have an impact for what we're doing now. It's going to follow what we've actually suggested here. So it's got the euro sign in front of it. It's got the decimal point. And it's got the comma and stuff as well in there. It's making it a bit more readable. So it's really clear now that that's a monetary value. So I'll keep going. I won't worry about this for the moment. So we have conditional formatting to highlight devices above 1,000. So what we're going to do now is we're going to basically add some formatting in to highlight a device that costs more than 1,000. And again, we're going to go and use this if statement. Okay, so to do this, I'm going to select the gallery, and I am going to change the color property in subtitle 1. Okay, so if I click here, so this is the part of the gallery that we actually want to do the function on. So if I go here and I find a color property, you can see now that that's just default. It's like black. It's fine. Excuse me. So we're going to add a condition here. We're going to say, let's take this out. If this item dot price greater than 1,000, I want you to use orange red is what I'm saying here. Okay, so if it is greater than 1,000, I want you to make the color, again, this is the property we're working on, orange red. Otherwise, I want you to make it gray. Straight away, you can see here, this one is turned orange red because it's over 1,000. Okay. So again, really similar to the other if statements that we've used throughout to get up to this point. I'll hit save here. Okay, so it's taking shape now. So what we'll do is move along. The next thing we're going to do is add a checkbox to add a device to a compare list. So now what we want people to be able to do is to be able to select devices and to compare them together on another screen. So we're going to do that now. So we're going to select the device gallery. We're going to edit it, and we're going to add a checkbox control in. Okay. So I click on my gallery. I can do it here as well if I want to. I can hit my pencil icon, insert, input, checkbox. One thing that I see where people trip up on this stuff is they forget to select the gallery and they add a checkbox, but it's actually, it pops up on the screen, but it's not popped up in the gallery itself. So just be really mindful of that when you're doing this stuff, that you're selecting the control that you actually want to add the thing into. Really, really common, mostly when you're working with galleries. So we've got our checkbox on the screen there. We positioned it, and we want to change the text in that to compare. So we'll go to text properties. You can see now, click off it. It says option. Let's change it to compare. Okay. Nice. So that's set to compare. We've set our text property. Lovely. Next thing we'll do is create a collection for the selected devices. So what this means is, what we need to do is every time someone selects a device, we need to build a collection in memory of the devices that they've selected for this to work. And that's what collect does. Actually, let's just use the device memory. If it's a browser, it would be browser memory, but you don't even really need to get into the details of that. You just know you need to build a list to remember what people have selected, right? So we're going to add an action to the checkbox, and it's going to be in the on check property. Okay, so if I click on here, Again, you'll see device gallery checkbox 1 is selected. I'm going to find the onCheck property. These are alphabetized. OnCheck, which is false now, because there's nothing in there. We haven't added any behavior for when it's unchecked or when it's checked. So what we're saying here is when something is checked, add it to this compare list, which is what we're going to make now. This is, again, an in-memory collection, and I'll show you that when we move on a little bit. You can actually take a look at these from within the app itself. Okay, so I'm going to say collect. And I'm going to call it, I want to stick to the same terminology here, compare list. The item will be this item, because we're in a gallery. We can get this item. Okay, nice. So what that means is when I check something, it adds it to this compare list, which is stored in memory in the session. Okay. Now we want to set an uncheck value, because if I only have it in check, if someone unchecks something, it won't be removed from that list. So I want to make sure when someone unchecks a device that it takes it back out of that collection that I built as well. So I'm going to set the uncheck value to remove. Okay, you can see it's very similar to the last formula that we used as well. Instead of going collect, we're going to remove compare list this item. Okay, so this is again on uncheck. On uncheck. Remove compare list. And we'll say this item. Cool. So we'll have a look at this and you'll see it in action in a moment. So that's two of the main parts of that done. The next thing we want to do is set a default property on the checkbox. So I'm going to set that to this item in compare list. Okay, so let's look at that. So this is set to false because there's just nothing added there for default. So we're going to say this item in compare list. So why do this step? Well, when someone launches the app for the first time, or sorry, when someone flicks around in the app and they go to the different screens or they click on different manufacturers and stuff like that, we want to have a default value where stuff will stay ticked. So by saying tick this box, if this item is in compare list, we ensure that if that item is in the compare list, it shows the tick box to everybody. Okay, and that's explained in more detail here. So what we can do now is we can test it out by adding items to the collection and running the app preview. So again, I'll hit preview here. Cool. So I'm taking my devices. I flick over here and I take this one. And see if I go back to Acer. Oh, they're all still there. Lovely. If I untick this, it's gone. Okay, it's taken out of the collection as well. So right now I've got those 3 devices ticked. Now, good, that's working as we thought. Now what we're going to do is view the collection. So you've heard me talk about this collection that we're building, this compare list. And it's a little bit hard to visualize for some people maybe. So what we can do is we can go view and collections. And you can see here's my compare list. And this is just built up in memory in Powerups in this session. Okay. And what it's doing is, even though it's got all of those fields of information, it's not necessarily displaying them all. There's how it gets its thumbnail image, by the way. It's URL. So we've added this item into the collection. So it takes all the fields from the item I've selected and it just chucks them into that compare list collection. And conversely, when I untick them, then it removes them from that compare list collection. Okay. So nice, let's get in there now. So we want to add a little bit more behavior. So we've seen compare list. We had a look at that collection. Next thing we want to do is set default selection to the first manufacturer, and then we want to test the app. So what this is doing is when someone launches the app, we want it to default to picking the first manufacturer, because otherwise it'll just be sitting there and there'll be nothing fed into the devices gallery. So we're going to say default this control to show the first manufacturer. And all we do is click here. Default. Okay, and this is applied to the gallery itself. We say first row of as source. And we have manufacturers. Nice. So when this app starts, when someone launches it, the default behavior is going to be for the first manufacturer in that list to be selected, okay? And that in turn will filter all the devices that people see as well. So we can preview the app again at this point. This is all working nicely. It's all fine. Tick, untick, it's filtering for me. UI is nicely laid out for the moment. Okay, cool, happy enough with that. So next thing we want to do then, we've exited preview mode. We want to add another screen into the app. So what we're going to do to finish, this is the last part we're going to get onto, so we're just about tracking along on time, is we want to add another screen to the app so that when someone selects options to compare devices, it's going to take them to another screen and it's going to show them devices that they wanted to compare, okay? So to add that screen from the ribbon, and if you hear the term ribbon, that's just the stuff that's along the top of the screen here. We're going to go home, new screen, and choose blank. Home, new screen, blank. If I scroll down here, there it is, screen 1. Okay, it's just throwing a blank screen into the app for me. I'm going to rename that to compare screen. Enter. Cool. So in the tree view now, I'm going to go back to the main screen and I'm going to click on the insert tab. I'm going to add a button. Okay, so I'm going to go back here and insert a button. I'm going to drag this to the bottom right of my app like this. Okay, it's a nice generic button. So we've placed the button on the bottom right. I'm going to set the text property. Now, this is interesting. So I'm going to set the text property to compare. And I'm going to use this formula, count rows, compare list. And I'm going to then add the word items onto the end of it. So what this is doing is this text is going to say compare, and then it's going to look at the compare list and count how many devices I've added to it. So if I select like 5 devices, it will say compare 5 items on the button. Okay, so it's a nice kind of UI flourish that we're adding to just make it nice and dynamic. And for people that are using it, if you've gone into a whole bunch of different manufacturers, it helps know how many devices you're actually comparing at any given time. So if I go to text, and again, I've got my button selected. There, add a space, an ampersand, because I'm going to join something to it. What I'm going to join is a count rows formula. So I'm going to say count rows. Okay, so this will count whatever row, this will count the rows and whatever I give it. So I'll give it compare list. And I'll say, oops. Okay. Now, the next thing we want to do is you can see the text is a bit bunched in here. So I'm going to just drag this, make it a bit wider, get a little bit of room to breathe there. Okay, so that's got compare 0 items. As we'd expect for the moment, it's got compare 0 items. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to set the button, and we want to set its display mode. So basically, if there's nothing to compare, we want that button to be disabled. So that's the plan here. Okay, so we've got this formula up here. If count rows compare list greater than 0, it's edit. So it's basically saying if the rows in compare list are greater than 0, show it in edit mode. Otherwise, disable it. So if there's no devices selected, I don't want people to be able to click on that button. Okay. So I'll click on my button. Go to my display mode. So right now it's in edit mode. Okay, rows on compare list. It's greater than 0. On display mode dot edit. So let people use the button if they've chosen devices to compare. If they haven't, once it's disabled. So you can see that button's disabled now because I've no devices selected to compare. It's cool. That's what we wanted it to do. We're going to set the fill property of the button header label.fill to match the button color with the header. So again, we're following this convention of linking controls together. So I'll just call this label dot fill. So if I change my header label color, the button color will change as well now too. So we're going to select the compare button and we're going to paste it. So you can use your normal copy and paste controls in Powerups as well, and you can actually use it to copy controls and paste them on the screen. So it's handy to do that sometimes and start from scratch, because you might have lots of conditional formatting applied to your control, like what we've been doing here. So I'm going to click on my button here, Control and C, Control and V. Let's give me another one. So I'm going to drag that across, try to keep it lined up a little bit. Okay, nice. So next, I want to change the property to clear selection. So you can probably see where this is going. This button on the left is going to clear all the stuff I've selected. Okay, this form is in here because I copied the button over. Clear selection. There we go. Okay, you can see the text. It's showing up disabled because we want it to be disabled. We haven't selected any devices to compare yet, so it's copied that behavior when we've done the copy and paste. The next thing we're going to do then is we're going to set an onSelect property for the clear compare list button. Clear selection button. So you can do it through actions as well if you want to. OnSelect. We're going to say clear. And we want to clear the compare list. Okay, so that will basically delete everything out of that compare list I built, which again, to remind everyone, is all the devices that I've selected while I'm in the session. Okay. The next thing we want to do then is on the compare button, we want to add an action that navigates. Okay, so if I click here, I'll click on navigate. And yeah, navigate to compare screen, and we'll just say no transition. So the screen transition is just how the screen looks. You can have it like kind of wipe off to one side or something like that, or fade if you want it. So we just set it to none for the moment. Okay, so that's got an action now that'll navigate. Yeah, done that. Okay, cool. So what'll happen now is I can take these items to compare them. You can see all the values are changing there. And if I do this, clear selection, deletes them. If I compare items, white screen. White screen because we've told it to navigate to our compare screen, okay, which we haven't really done anything to yet. So I want to kind of make this look like this screen. So I'm going to click on my header. Actually, I'll click on this first. So clicked on this welcome message. I'll hold Control and I'll click on the header. Then I'll go Control and C. I'll copy these two controls. I'll go back to my compare screen and I'll Control and paste. And I've got my header in here now as well. Okay, so it's an easy way to make the two screens look the same. This is just going through the steps that we've done. So what we want to do now, last step, is you want to add another gallery on here. So we want to be able to see what devices we've chosen to compare, okay? And a really good starting point for us and for consistency for the users, if I go back here, I kind of want it to look like the gallery that I'm already using. So I'm going to go Control and C to copy. Back here, Control and V. Cool. So it's taken that gallery and it's just dropped it right in. And I'm going to move it over to here. Now in the full session, we'd normally be adding a form in here, but that's in another module. So we'll just expand this out. Okay. Now, what's missing here? We have to hook up the data source a little bit, right? So first we'll rename the gallery, compare list gallery. Cool. The next thing we want to do is we want to get rid of some controls that we don't need in there as well. We'll also set the items property. So we don't want this looking at the devices gallery. We want this looking at the devices that we've chosen to compare. So in items, I'm going to delete this. I'm going to say compare list. So we have the devices that we selected are shown up here in this gallery. We don't need that compare control anymore. So I'm just going to delete that out of it. So I go here. Delete. Now, one last thing I want to do so that we can actually preview the app and not get stuck on a screen or anything like that is I want to insert a icon. And I want to add a back button. So I'll use left. And I'm going to put this up here because it's a really kind of, you know, as a user, you'd expect to see controls up here in this header. It's not very clear. So I'm going to go home, and rather than having it that blue, I think I'll make it white. This, okay. And again, to add an on-click action, we go actions, on select. We're going to use a formula called back. And all this does is basically navigates to the previous screen. So when you play, I go back, it takes me back to the main screen. Clear selection. I can select my devices that I want to compare items, and I can see there's my devices I've selected. Okay, so in the follow-up modules to this, normally what we'd be doing is adding in the workflow, adding in connectivity to the common data service, and we actually add in some Power BI reporting on the whole thing as well. So that's stuff that we need to do in person, and obviously we need a full day together. So that is it. We've done our app in roughly 60 minutes, and just about there or thereabouts. Hopefully everyone can understand then how easy it is to work with this stuff. Kind of has its own way of doing things, but once you kind of roll up your sleeves and get into it, it's very easy to get used to it. And hopefully everyone can see the similarity with other apps and how you can get started in this. And hopefully this was some use to everybody as well. So John, if you're available there, that's me.
Thanks, Mash. Really good, amazing what you crammed in there in a short period of time. Thanks to me. I actually learned a lot in relation to that too. So I suppose, guys, just a couple of things. So Matt mentioned the app in a day workshops. So you know, filling in those feedback forms will automatically reserve a place for you in the next app in a day workshop. So just another incentive for you to make sure you do that. I dropped the link in a couple of times in the meeting chat. Really helpful for us. I know one or two of you have already reached out on LinkedIn, so that's there too, to myself and Matt. So I suppose any other questions that anyone has, you know, if you want to drop them into the chat or just raise them now. I'm sure Matt would be more than happy to take any questions that you have. Or if anyone has one, maybe come off mute.
We have a question there from Maura. So Maura's asked if we'll be sending out the PDF and data source examples. We won't be in this case. We normally have these in the app in the day sessions that we'll have in person. So that's going to be. I'm not sure if we have a date set for that yet, John, but I think that's going to be coming up.
Yeah.
And we have another question from Ryan. So Ryan has asked, can you embed the app into a web page, and can you embed a Power BI report in the app? And can you do Codec from the app directly? And can we dynamically create an app from a coding language? So I'll go through these one at a time as quick as I can, Ryan. You can embed an app into other Office 365 apps. So you can embed it into the likes of a SharePoint page, for example. And you can use Powerups portals then for externally facing sites that you might want to have. So if you have something you want to display to the public, you can use a portal for that. But everything else then would live in Office 365. You can embed Power BI reports into the app. You can also do the other way around, which is really, really cool, where you could have a Power BI report, you can have a Power App embedded in that, and you can have actions on some of the data then that's coming out of that Power BI report. So this is something we've done with Heineken, and it's cool. So yeah, you can do both Power BI report in the app or an app in the Power BI report. Yes, you can do basic CRUD operations. You can write into SQL. You can write into the likes of SharePoint. That's all handled by the connectors that are in there. You can also have your own APIs if you wanted to write code and make your own web API. You can do that too. And for the moment, you can't dynamically create an app from a coding language. I'm not sure if that's on the roadmap. What you can do, and I don't know if this is any use to you, you can template apps. So you could create an app, save it as a template, and export it. And likewise, you would have seen, if you spotted that at the start, you get a lot of template apps off Microsoft that you can just kind of steal and change them as you need to change them. So hopefully that answers the questions for you, Ryan. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to jump in or send a message into the chat, as John was saying. It is really cool. It's really, really handy. And to have done what we've done in about an hour, it kind of shows it off as well. So like we had said, it's it can be really, really simple, or you can start to get really, really sophisticated with it as well. So there's a lot of uses for it. Cool.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you all very much for your time. We're bang on. Well, we're 2 minutes over. I know we started 2 minutes late. So, Matt, very well done on the timekeeping. Fair play. So, guys, thank you all very, very much. Really appreciate it. If you could fill in the feedback forms, I know I sound like a broken record. That'd be really helpful. And thank you all very much for your time. I hope you found it informative. And we look forward to welcome you to the in-person app in a day session where I think we'd be able to build on what we've shown today. So look, thanks a million, Matt. Thank you very much. You very well presented and really, really good presentation. Hope everyone got as much out of it as I did, and we'll drop it there. And thank you all again.
Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks everybody for your time and for coming along. And sorry, John, there's just a question on the recording of the session. Is this going to be sent out to the participants?
I think so. Yeah, I think it'll be made available to you for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So normally, I think what will happen there is you'll get an email following up from the event, and I think that's the plan. We can.
Oh, actually, you know what, Matt? I think marketing said that it's for us to be able to do that, you have to fill in. I think there's a question in the feedback form. I think there's something to do with the feedback form in relation to that too.
Okay.
The plan is yes. The plan is yes, that we should be sending it out.
Cool. So hopefully more of that answers your question. So
yeah, because I know that there's 5 other sessions happening this morning, so I know a lot of people wanted to try and attend too. So I, as far as I'm aware, they will be made available. Yeah, good question, Maura.
Cool.
Okay, guys, have a good day. Matt, thanks again.
No problem. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, John.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye-bye.